welcome everyone to episode 117 of FTW Podcast from FTWpodcast.com. We are coming to you live on June 5th, 2012. On tonight's show, we're going to cover Randy Orton's suspension, TNA, and how they are in fact going to create a Hall of Fame, like we suggested in March. And is the Divas division in danger of disappearing? All that and your comments and questions, plus the rest of the news and events from this week. My name is Garvin, filling in for Harrison.
And Joe.
And Joe. I am with Rob. Say hello, Rob.
Hey.
And that's it. That's the show. It's FTW Light, not a full episode. It's possible we're going to get a couple call-ins a little bit later on. But before that, if you're new to the show, you can check out FTWpodcast.com for more about us and how to get involved in tonight's show, as well as all upcoming shows. You can reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, voicemail, text message, email. It's all there on FTWpodcast.com. Specifically, FTWlive.com has basically how to get involved if you're not there already. For those listening live, we'll be bringing in your comments and questions throughout the show, so if you want your voice to be heard, this is your opportunity. Tonight's live chat can be found at ftwlive.com, as we said. You can also email us at questions@ftwpodcast.com. If you're on Twitter, use hashtag FTWLive. We'll be monitoring that all night, and hopefully bring in those messages as they come in. For those not listening live, and you're listening at home, sit back and relax. This should be pretty awesome, specifically because Harrison's not here.
That does boost the... I'm not going to say. I can't be that mean, despite all the shit he's put me through.
So, we got a couple other programming announcements. The first, we basically have to explain why Harrison and Joe are not here. First, Joe is not here. He had a family emergency he had to attend to. So we obviously send our condolences to him. Rob and I do. Hopefully you guys do the same thing. You know his email address, joe@ftwpodcast.com. He's also on Twitter, @joeftwpodcast. Send him your warm wishes, your love, your support. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Harrison, on the other hand, scheduled this day off. Yeah, he's scheduled this day off, but it's just unfortunate that everyone's scheduled today off in one way or another. So, outside of that, we moved our TNA Slammiversary pay-per-view special. Usually we do those on Saturdays. Instead, we're going to do that on Thursday. It's a live Slammiversary pay-per-view special. It's going to happen directly after Impact goes off the air. Rob, myself, Harrison, Lee from WrestlingNewsSource.com, we're all going to get on and basically predict and preview Slammiversary. Hopefully by the end of Impact, we'll have all of the matches that they're going to include on the show. As it stands right now, we only have 4. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on tonight. Just going down the docket. Episode 116 was last week. We had some comments on our YouTube page that we wanted to basically bring out. The first was from Peckerdecker. You might remember him last week. He commented on episode 115 and basically said, we were too soft, we weren't negative enough, we needed to be more critical like all of the other podcasts. And although, we appreciate that kind of constructive criticism, which it was pretty constructive.
Right. I mean, if you're, I can appreciate the fact that, if you're going to criticize, give a suggestion of what you'd like to hear that you're not hearing. Yeah.
And really, it was nice to hear that point of view. But he did send another comment. I'm going to split them up. We're going to use a couple of the comments later on in the Ask FTW segment. For now, his main comment was, quote, "Thanks for answering my question from last week's show." And the reason I brought that out was I wanted to say two things. The first thing is Peckerdecker. Thanks for listening and participating in the conversation. That's something that we've been trying to push a lot lately. We want everyone who's listening to be able to participate and share their opinions about this thing that we enjoy watching. The soapbox doesn't just belong to us. It's an equal opportunity to speak your mind here on FTW. Not just us, but you guys too. You in the live chat, you listening at home later on this week. Whoever, whenever, send in your feedback. Not just about us, but everything else going on. Be as critical as you want. Be as supportive as you want. We'll bring it on the show and respond to it. Next one was from Violent RIC. I'm going to read what he said, but we're not necessarily going to respond to it now. That's because he calls out Harrison, and Harrison may be calling in later on tonight. We're going to play that one by ear. But his comment was, quote, "Don't know your name, host, but Big Show did exactly that. He said the tears hadn't even dried on the mat, and the fans were having a good time dancing to Brodus' entrance. He said, quote, 'You don't care about me, so I don't care about you.'" He did it absolutely what Harrison said. And what that stems to is Harrison said that he hated the Big Show segment, that he doesn't like what they're doing with Big Show because they're not using him properly. They're not addressing the issues properly. The only issue is that Harrison was the only one that felt that way. Like everyone else understood what was going on, and that was even Mike's win of the week was Big Show's segment. We'll have Harrison respond in full whenever he comes out. And he said later on, so maybe we'll see him, maybe we won't. The next comment was from Little PRX. This was all on YouTube. We were talking about what to do with Ryback. What could they do with Ryback next that would make the character better? We all responded. His response is turn Ryback heel. Do you agree with that, Rob?
I don't think so. I mean, for right now, I don't see where Ryback turning heel helps. One of the problems the WWE as a whole has is they've got too many heels and not really enough good faces to go up against them. I don't see where adding another heel to the mix solves the problem. I think you need to give Ryback better competition. Start making his win streak impressive.
Yeah, and that's my main complaint about Ryback is that, although it's impressive that he's able to pick up two guys that are 180 pounds apiece, that's really not it's really not what we want to see from a big, powerful wrestler. He should be going against bigger people and people who are actually, at least low card level. I mean, these aren't even low card level. These are dark match guys, local talent. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think making him heel would work. At least not right now. I mean, he's getting a good reaction from the fans, or at least from what we can tell. We're all somewhat mediocrely acceptable. We find him acceptable. So, I don't know. We'll see. The other comment he had was about what to do with Lesnar next. Because that was another topic that we had. What do you do with Lesnar after his match with Triple H, whenever that is? If that's at SummerSlam or if that's, at a pay-per-view sooner or what? Rob, you were pretty adamant that they should get rid of him, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
There's the door. Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out.
I am not in that.
That's okay.
Not in that grouping.
I'm used to being in the minority.
I agree that he's not doing as well as I would have hoped, but I still think there's an opportunity to sell some big fights, especially with Undertaker, if that's the route that they want to take, or if you look at what Harrison was trying to push, which was Brock versus Rock. I don't know, but Little PRX on YouTube, he sent in Lesnar versus CM Punk at Mania. Is that at all match you want to see, Rob?
It could be. I mean, Lesnar versus CM Punk. It could be a great match. I mean, CM Punk's a veteran. He's somebody who could handle Lesnar's lack of training, I'll call it, in a professional wrestling ring. But at the same time, with the size difference between the two of them, if Brock makes a mistake, he could seriously injure CM Punk.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I don't think that would sell as well as a match against Austin would. And that's something that they've all been trying to push as well. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling that match either. So it's a good thought, little PRX, but I think we all disagree with you here. All right, right now, Rob, let's move right into Impact.
Let's do that.
What was your favorite moment of the night?
I'm going to tell you what my favorite moment of the night was, and I'm prepared to take any potential fallout that may or may not occur from it. My moment of the night was gut check. Specifically because we talked about this while we were getting ready for the show and while we were testing some new things out Sunday. Joe mentioned on our show last week, Joe mentioned that when we were talking about the third gut check judge, my vote was Tommy Dreamer. Joe wanted Taz, and Joe wanted Taz to be the, ECW, beat me if you can, survive if I let you kind of Taz. I agreed with that. I said, that'd be a great pick, even better than my pick of Tommy Dreamer. Well, as further proof that somebody in TNA management is listening to us and taking our suggestions, guess who the third gut check judge is? It's Taz. And they let Taz be Taz.
Yeah, and that worked perfectly. I thought. I thought it was a great pick, and he brings a lot to that someone like Flair couldn't, because it's obvious that he's looking at the guy as is he good for the business type of aspect, while Flair was more or less how does he relate to me type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Flair has his moments, but Flair has his strengths in young developers. But what a lot of people don't actually know about Taz is not only is Taz a former trainer from Tough Enough, but Taz has actually trained professional wrestlers. He's operated schools. He's taken people under his wing. This is a guy who knows pro wrestling inside and out, a lot more than TNA lets him show as a commentator. And if you want proof of that, listen to Taz describe how to give a suplex correctly, or why Kurt Angle is so great at suplexes and whatnot. He's a lot more knowledgeable about wrestling than people probably believe, and he's got a real eye for talent. He can look at somebody and say, you can work in the business, or I don't care how good you are, you just can't work.
Sure.
And, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to, outside of Taz, though, this gut wrench segment has caused a lot of controversy, just because I think it's just a matter of that no one really knows how to react to it. They were crossing that fourth wall line throughout the entire thing. Is it real? Is it a work? That's all people are talking about with it. What are your thoughts on that?
To me, I think that's one of the reasons why it's a success. One of the main problems with pro wrestling today is fans and people who aren't fans are convinced that everything you see is fake. So when you have something come up and people are like, well, is it real? Is it fake? Are they working an angle? Was this supposed to happen? Did this just, go off the cuff? To me, anytime you're asking that stuff, it's probably good for the business.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're doing the main thing you need to do. You're getting people interested. Because now people are going to tune in to see, well, was it real? And at first, I gotta tell you, at first I kind of didn't know what Taz was talking about. I thought Joey Ryan did a great job staying in character against Austin Aries. But then after I heard his comments about him on Gut Check and Al Snow's comments about him on Gut Check, I went back, and thanks to TNA posting matches on YouTube, I went back and I watched that match. And when you look at it, you can tell that Joey Ryan, when he poses in the turnbuckle, that was not supposed to happen. And Austin Aries actually looks around at the crowd like, "What the fuck, kid?" You know. Now Austin Aries, being Austin Aries, he covers it up real quickly and works it into his persona. But you can tell, at least in my opinion, that Joey Ryan failed to do the main thing that TNA wanted him to do, which was, you were in against the X Division champion. Push the X Division champion, make him look good, and you've got to show us that you're worried that you might not get a contract here.
Sure, yeah, and that was something that you really didn't see. For sure, great character. I thought the way he worked in the ring was pretty solid, but there wasn't a whole lot of wrestling that he did. It was more or less just working the crowd and working Aries. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm still torn. I don't think this is the last time we've seen Joey Ryan in TNA. Knowing that there was that 87%, that's the number they keep throwing around, fan support for him, you've got to think that they'll bring him back, even just another tryout.
Oh yeah, and Taz's last comments really seemed to open the door for that. When he's like, "All right, you know what? You think I made a mistake? Prove me wrong. Go back out on the road, do your thing for a little while. Come back here, and when the time's right, prove me wrong." That definitely opens the door for Joey Ryan to make a return to TNA. But at the same point in time, as I went through the segment, I could understand what pissed Taz off so much and what pissed Al Snow off so much. Joey Ryan, from the time he stepped into TNA, acted like he already had a job there.
Sure.
And I can see where that would piss management off. It's like, hey, we're giving you a tryout match. We don't really owe you anything, and you're acting like we're going to bend over and give you a job. I thought it was a very well done segment, and I really love the exchange he had with Taz, and Taz just saying, "You know what, kid, the hell with you."
All right. Also on Impact, they did more than just the gut wrench or the gut
Yes,
check.
they did. Yes, they did.
Sting versus Bobby Roode opened up the show, the first live Impact of the summer. What were your thoughts about that match and about what they're trying to do for those two characters?
I liked it. I mean, I can't. The last time I saw an honest-to-God lumberjack match, that was what a lumberjack match is supposed to be. I thought it was. I thought it was really good, and it paved the way. The match paved the way for Hogan to make the announcement of Sting versus Bobby Roode at Slammiversary for the world title. I think it did everything it needed to do. Sting looked like the rest, like the time off really helped him. Was much better in the ring than I'd seen him in a while. Bobby Roode is a solid talent.
Okay. We also saw Bully Ray challenging Joseph Park, so they're finally moving forward with that. Austin Aries defeated Chris Sabin. Brooke Hogan was brought out, announced to the crowd. We also saw Devon and Jeff Hardy. AJ Styles versus Kaz. AJ Styles versus Daniels. Anything else from this show that stood out to you?
Well, we're talking about moving forward with storylines, and AJ Styles and Daniels, I was glad to see, because after that match, Kazarian and Daniels played a cell phone call between AJ Styles and Dixie Carter, and we finally saw Dixie Carter get involved in the storyline, where she comes running out to the commentator booth and takes Taz's headset from him. and just starts telling everybody to cut it off. And I mean, she even goes to the point of threatening to fire people in the truck if they didn't stop the show right now.
Yeah, it was a nice. It was a nice twist.
Um,
Nice change.
yeah, so it's nice to see that they're moving forward on that storyline too. And I gotta tell you, now as we're moving forward, it's getting to a point where I want to see where they're going with this storyline. I want to see what TNA has in store. The storyline for me is finally starting to get interesting. Austin Aries and Chris Sabin, both of these guys are A-level talent, and they showed why. Brooke Hogan, her debut was a bit underwhelming. She could have been a bit better dressed. I think her dress. I think the clothing she chose to wear did not say "I'm a professional." I'm not particularly thrilled with her fangirl response. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I thought there was a lot that Brooke Hogan could have done to make that segment better. But it basically relied on Dixie Carter to carry the entire segment, and luckily for the segment, Dixie Carter did carry the entire segment, but I don't think Brooke Hogan was as prepared as she could have been for her debut.
Yeah, and I think if you had one thing to complain about, that would be it. The live chat is discussing the idea that it seemed like there was some timing issues with gut check. That's what's being reported. So you have the Brooke Hogan segment where they build up that she's going to take over the Knockouts division, and then there is no other reference to the Knockouts. The Knockouts never had a match, which was definitely unfortunate. I think that was just bad time management. Well, speaking of bad time management, we went way over on this, so let's move on.
Let's do that.
Okay, so that was the Impact side. I know the live chat is also talking about Samoa Joe. We're going to bring that up a little bit later on. We're going to be previewing Slammiversary a little bit later on. As far as what we know now, the full preview will be this Thursday directly after Impact. So stay tuned for that. But let's move on to SmackDown. SmackDown is usually led by Joe. Joe is not here, so I'll be filling in. Not a lot happened. WWE is failing a lot lately. And I think I might actually, combine SmackDown and Raw into one review because it was basically the same matches. You had Sin Cara face some random, low card guy and winning on both shows. You had Sheamus defeat Dolph Ziggler on both shows. You had Kane versus CM Punk on both shows. So I think they are slowly starting to use both shows to push the same things, but unfortunately it's just not getting over as well as it should. You see Sheamus versus Dolph Ziggler, and granted, those are great matches. I think I enjoyed those matches above all else, the most. But Dolph is losing cleanly, and I don't necessarily understand why they're using Dolph in this position, knowing that they just had, basically him split off from Jack Swagger, sort of. Like, we haven't seen Swagger around, so it's kind of implied that they've split them off. He wanted to be pushed up into that, that position that Randy Orton was in, if you remember. Now he's in that position, but he's still losing. So I don't know quite what they're trying to accomplish with that.
Well, I mean, you make an interesting point here, and I think I would agree with you. Not only that SmackDown and Raw segments be merged into one for our show, but I really think that the WWE should consider continuing what they're doing, kind of merging the two shows, because SmackDown's been failing for a long time. Raw has been going down. I mean, as I watch the two companies, it's funny. all the criticizing we did about TNA seems to be turning the ship around, and they're doing a lot of things right. At the same time, that that WWE is doing a lot of things wrong, and
Right.
it's WWE definitely has to find a way to pull themselves out of the rut that they're in, because they've hit a major slump.
Yeah, and just to go back on Dolph Ziggler, this is also being discussed in the live chat. The one thing that he is doing well is he is putting on good matches with Sheamus, which not everyone can do. It's definitely building Sheamus up to be this great wrestler, this great champion,
Yeah, and
which
that's
which they needed to do.
right, and that's something I like to see from Dolph, because when you take a look at Dolph Ziggler and Sheamus, Dolph Ziggler has a much better, much wider move set than Sheamus does, which is one of the reasons why it's hard to put people in the ring and have them build Sheamus up, because Sheamus has like what, 3 moves, I think. I mean, uh, obviously he knows a little more than that, but he's got a very limited moveset that he uses. Dolph Ziggler is a very technically sound wrestler. He's got a very varied moveset. He can beat you in a variety of ways. And I was not the biggest Dolph Ziggler fan when he came into the WWE. He's really turned himself around and has impressed me a lot. I'd really like to see the WWE find a way to reward him for working so well with Sheamus and making the improvements he's needed to make to stand out as a major wrestler of the future in WWE.
Yeah, I totally agree. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot going on SmackDown worth talking about. We did see Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder finally made another match appearance. Won alongside Santino in a tag match. One thing that we complained about over the last couple of months was that they weren't building up CM Punk's feuds enough, and that's one thing that they've definitely improved on this month with the whole CM Punk versus Daniel Bryan, and now with the addition of Kane for No Way Out. I think that was the SmackDown main event. They also did it on Raw. It was I think it it started the second hour. So they're definitely putting a lot of time into that now, which is a nice change, because that is a feud that we all are very supportive of. Outside of that, SmackDown, we saw Sandow basically squash Ezekiel Jackson. Sin Cara, like I said, he returned, which was nice to see. And actually, Sin Cara is a lot better than he was last time. I do want to make that statement. And this is my opinion. I know there's a lot of complaints still about him, but, he's not as botch prone as he was last time around. But he is a lot slower this time. So I don't know if that's just him finally getting used to the pace of a WWE match, or if that's just an after effect of his knee injury.
It could be. I mean, it could be a combination of the knee injury and ring rust, but it's also not uncommon for the WWE to slow a wrestler down and say, okay, you're too quick for our guys to keep up with, and it's resulting in a lot of botches. Slow it down so that our guys can keep up with you. The WWE's done it before, so it really could, like you said, be either one of those things.
Sure. Okay. That was SmackDown. Raw, as I said, basically continued on the same trend. Lee in the chat, what he was saying is that his issue with the CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Kane thing right now is that, yeah, it's the main event of SmackDown, but it's the middle of the show on Raw. So for the WWE title, it's still not getting the placement that it needs to. And I don't know why that is. And I don't think anyone really has that answer. It seems like Raw is not timed correctly. If you look at this week's Raw, which was pretty awful, I think that's how everyone feels. That's how I feel. It was a pretty bad show. But the main event was Cena versus Michael Cole. That was your main event. That was the last thing. And before that, I started thinking, maybe what they're trying to do with this is they're trying to, you know, recreate the feeling of Hogan versus Bobby Heenan. Same type of heat going back and forth between the two. It kind of felt that way, but it was definitely not aimed at, wrestling fans like us, like a lot of our listeners, a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people on Twitter. It was aimed, I felt at least, towards the younger crowd. But if that was the case, if they are aiming it for the younger crowd, then why isn't that being put in the middle of the show? Why is that being put all the way at the end at 11 o'clock when the younger audience
is in bed?
They may or may not even be watching.
Right. I mean, and I can see the parallels there too. But at the same point in time, Michael Cole is no Bobby Heenan.
No, not at all.
Not by a long shot. And I think the main problem here is the WWE is realizing that it's a lot harder to put on a 3-hour show every week. There's a reason why they did this only once in a while and usually at pay-per-views. Basically what the WWE is trying to do is give a pay-per-view every week. And I think they're realizing that it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah, definitely. And if we're complaining about a lot of these timing issues now, I can't imagine what it's going to be like once it does go to 3 hours. All right, so outside of that, I'm just trying to look at the rest of the card. There really wasn't a whole lot going on. We saw Tensai return. He hasn't been on about 2 weeks. Picked up his first loss, which was kind of surprising. The WWE put out that article a few weeks ago that we responded to. It was, who's going to lose first, Brodus Clay, Ryback, or Tensai. Tensai lost.
I picked Ryback. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. Ryback, on the other hand, continues the win. They are pitting him up against two local athletes. He did it on SmackDown. He did it on Raw. It's the exact same match over and over. They're not really doing anything new with Ryback. So that part of it's getting annoying. It's not as impressive now as it first was when he picked up the two guys at the same time. I really wish they would kind of break away from that mold and, make it look like an evolving character. For some reason, wrestling can't evolve characters properly. But that was it. Raw was pretty awful. You ask anyone, and they will say that. It was slow, boring. The only highlights were Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler, but that can only carry you for so long. The same thing for Kane and CM Punk. Love the feud that they're building, especially with Daniel Bryan. How they're playing with AJ now. I know Harrison will disagree with that because he hates how they're using AJ, but I think it's fantastic. I really enjoy that entire storyline that they've built. And all right, let's move on. It's time for Ask FTW. You can ask us questions by emailing questions at ftwpodcast.com, or you can send us a tweet at ftwpodcast using the hashtag AskFTW. You can also post on our Facebook wall, facebook.com/FTW podcast. We received an email from Kyle. He said, "It seems like TNA gives preferences to guys who come in from WWE over the TNA originals. There's a pretty substantial history of Vince not pushing guys who came from other feds who he didn't personally make into superstars, like Punk and Ryder. They all took forever to basically get to where they are now."
And Booker T.
Yeah, and Booker T. That's a great example. What do you think is worse? Basically, TNA giving preference to WWE guys, or Vince not pushing guys that he did not create?
I think the worst is not pushing guys. I mean, like Booker T, the example I threw out. I can remember when WCW had just been bought out by WWE, and they were doing this big WCW versus WWE storyline, and they had Booker T come out, and he's kicking ass in the ring, knocking people right, left, and everywhere. And The Rock comes out, and he starts knocking people right, left, everywhere. And then The Rock looks at Booker T, and with one line destroys Booker T. Just looks at Booker T and's like, "Who are you?" And that's been an example that Sting has thrown out as to why he didn't go to the WWE. Other former WCW wrestlers have cited examples like that as to why they didn't go to the WWE. TNA, I can understand why it's sometimes bad to push people from another company, but that's, to me, has always struck me as an advantage of TNA, in that they're willing to give you a chance no matter where you come from. They're going to give you a chance to make your mark. They're not going to penalize you for not being there since day one.
Yeah, and I can kind of agree with that. It's not just the WWE guys that are pushed over in TNA. I mean, also look at Austin Aries. He was from Ring of Honor. He wasn't really a TNA guy. He had some experience there, but he really made his name over in Ring of Honor and the other independents. And look at him now. I mean, he's basically one of the top guys there.
Right. I mean, and Velvet Sky is another one. She had been wrestling for a long time in independent circuits. She's very skilled in the independent circuits, and then she came to TNA, and TNA made her a mainstay. They got her involved in big storylines right away. To me, I kind of like that. I like the fact that a company is willing to say, "Hey, we're going to give you a chance, and if you've got the talent, we don't care where you came from. If you've got the talent, if you can do what we need you to do, we're going to put you in a position where you can be a star."
Yeah, and I mean, even look at Christian. This is being discussed in the live chat. Diva Joe actually is bringing this up. TNA made Christian a huge star. When he was in WWE, he was always in Edge's shadow. He never really had that big opportunity to, be himself and be a big-time player. And when he went to TNA, he did get that opportunity. So is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I kind of like that. What I don't like is that like guys like Mr. Anderson or Jeff Hardy are getting more time. Well, at least they were getting more time than people that you would like to see. And for some reason, yeah, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Magnus, the TNA originals for some reason have always been kind of second fiddle to those bigger names.
I don't have a problem with people like Mr. Anderson who are so willing to put in the hard work. The time that it really bothered me was when you had like the ECW guys. Guys who are at the end of their career, guys who admit that they're at the end of their career, and they're still getting pushed more and more and more. And it's like, okay, this guy's at the end of his career. It makes no sense to continue pushing him. Jeff Hardy, I could put in that same thing. Jeff Hardy to me is still unreliable.
I completely agree. And just to address Kyle's question specifically, what's worse, TNA pushing WWE guys or WWE not giving guys like Punk and Ryder an opportunity? You got to look at WWE not giving those guys an opportunity is probably worse in the long run. But at the same time, that's a huge pool of talent that you're bringing other people into. So you got a lot to sift through. It's got to be much different or much more difficult on that side. Right now, though, Harrison is calling in, so I'm going to add him to the call. He should be here now. Harrison?
Oh, hey.
Okay.
Welcome, Harrison.
Hey, Rob.
Harrison is here, and I am assuming you want to respond to violent RICs?
No, not really.
No?
No. He's
No,
just here to bother us.
No, I'm just out here. I'm out here. It's a gorgeously frigid day in the middle of June. I'm watching my wife play softball, and if this pitcher keeps pitching inside when she's at bat, I'm going to charge the mound.
So you're going to be like that parent.
I'm going to parent, yes. No, I'm going to be that kind of husband where I'm going to grab a bat and I'm going to charge. I'm going to hit this little blue collar guy right in the fucking neck. Anyway, no, yeah. The thing is, what was it, last week? In my Raw segment, we had Mike on, and I talked about how Big Show segment felt a little lackadaisy to me, and I would have liked if he would have went after the crowd a bit. Mike brought it up a bit, and Violent, whatever the guy's name was on YouTube, brought it up too. Yeah, I completely forgot about Big Show's segment the week before, so it would have been 2 weeks ago. He did kind of go after the crowd for a little bit, so yeah, I want to redact that. But I do want to point out that this past Raw, which was honestly pretty awesome, Michael Cole's segment at the beginning, that's exactly what I was hoping for. And if you want to see, man, when I saw Michael Cole get out there on the mic, and then John Cena came out, I mean, you cannot find a better face-heel combo on the mic than those two on Pro Wrestling today. I mean, they're just fantastic.
Can I take a step back? Did you say you thought Raw was awesome?
Oh,
that is what you said, right?
There's parts of it were awesome. It was I don't know. There were parts of it that were awesome, parts of it that really, really sucked. No, the parts of it that really, really sucked. I mean, it wasn't like Impact. Like, Impact had its high points and low points, but overall it was a good show. Certain points on Raw were really good. I thought it started really, really strong and then ended in this weird food fetishy thing with the barbecue sauce. And like I was telling Garvin earlier, that was Tensai's first loss, wasn't it, as a singles wrestler? Yeah, yes, as a plot device. I mean, how sad is that? This guy is supposed to be this unstoppable monster, and his first loss as a single wrestler is just as a plot device to get Cena up against Michael Cole for a squash match that means nothing in the long run. I just couldn't believe it. That was seriously, I don't know, what do you guys think? I just think it was stupid.
I did not like how they used Tensai there. If they were going to use Tensai there, he should have won. I don't think anyone really wanted to see Cole in that last main event fight because you got to consider that and we said this early in the show, that was probably aimed at the younger audience.
Oh yeah,
and who's really staying up for that to watch that specifically? I don't know, but
at 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, that's a really good point.
But just to go back about the Cena versus Michael Cole segment. At the beginning of the show, I completely agree. That was something that I left off with my review. I did like Cena and Cole, how they went back and forth between each other. I thought it was very well done. The only issue I had with it is that Michael Cole played that role perfectly, except for it would have been perfect if he was Big Show's manager. But because he's playing the role of a commentator,
yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah, that's the problem that we kind of have with W and their commentating team, and the fact that Michael Cole is so strong on the mic that you stick him out there in a segment like that where, yeah, I can see what you're saying as far as being Big Show's manager, but at the same time, you can look at him as like, instead of being a Big Show's manager, he was that heel commentator, but King is so terrible that Cole, even during the course of the match, has to play play-by-play and color commentary, and he's probably the best wrestling commentator alive today. If only because JR is just, his health and everything is not alive. It's just JR's health is keeping him from really being able to do it. And Stone Cold popping like crazy when Stone Cold comes out of the ring. But that's the problem with WWE. I think that's the problem that WWE sees that they're in, is that having Cole out there on the mic in the middle of the ring is awesome heel heat, and I really can't think of anybody in that capacity that could do it. Vince McMahon of old could do it. Shane O'Mac could do it. That's the problem, is that you're just kind of hearkening back to like the late 90s for guys that can do it. Really, John Laurinaitis should be able to get that kind of reaction from the crowd, and the only reason everybody doesn't like him is because he's just terrible. So everyone just kind of laughs at him as this goofy idiot. So they had to play to that. They can't play to that strength guy on the mic. I mean, look how much Cena ripped Laurinaitis a new one 2 weeks ago. I mean, Cena just shredded him. And it's just like, there's no one that can really, as far as a heel goes, can really stand in the middle of the ring, stand up to a face, and really put the face over. And Cole's the best guy they got. And yeah, you're right. It's unfortunate that he's a commentator, but who else are they going to do? I mean, you're going to wheel out, damn it. This is why it sucks that I'm out here, because I don't have any of my notes in front of me. You guys are going to laugh at me for this. ECW guy, the guy manager for Lesnar.
Paul Heyman.
Heyman.
Yeah, Heyman.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
damn it, Garvin, come on. You know I'm terrible with names. Come on, I'm terrible with names. I'm standing around here with all this dust and everything. I'm in a half-finished softball field. I mean, Heyman can kind of do it, but you can't bring him out every week to do every single feud. I mean, and he's exclusively Lesnar's guy, so I don't know. They're just kind of in a tough bind because, they need to build up Big Show and Cena, and Big Show can't hold a candle to Cena on the mic, so you get Cole out there to do it, and then unfortunately Raw ends the way it ends.
Yeah. All right, let's go to an Ask FTW question. This was from JD on Wrestling Fusion.
Cool.
He said, I'm growing tired of CM Punk now. What annoys me is that when he cut that promo, he mentioned he was a Paul Heyman kind of guy. He couldn't stand what Cena stood for, yada, yada, yada. But now he's no longer that anti-hero. He's basically what John Cena was at the time. He's goofy. He's putting chewing gum on Johnny's chair. Why have they allowed CM Punk to fall so far from that edgy anti-hero type level that he was before? Like, why are they no longer pushing him? That's what JD had asked. Harrison, what are your thoughts on
the average parent won't buy their 12-year-old a CM Punk shirt because he trend. I mean, you gotta get him out there. You gotta get him goofy. You gotta mainstream him in order to make him marketable. Yeah, he's look. I'm with you. Whoever this was, I'm with you as far as CM Punk getting a little bit too, little less punky, I guess is the point being. He's not that kind of, that kind of like alternative college radio kind of vibe to him anymore. But at the same time, I mean, he's holding the world championship belt, he's holding the WWE title. He's main eventing, entire pay-per-views. His matches are marquee matches now. I mean, it's not like we look forward to a CM Punk match because of who he's with, like, oh, it's CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. Now, it's getting to the point that you're looking forward to a CM Punk match just because it's CM Punk. So you gotta mainstream him. It's the same thing that happened to Randy Orton. Randy Orton was this unstoppable monster. He was, couldn't be beat. He was the Viper, the apex predator. He was like this real bad boy. Like when he had that storyline with Triple H where he showed up at his house and broke in and bashed everything. Yeah, he was a real outlier then. However, you can't really make money off of that very much, especially once you get him put over the face, and then that's the end of him. You gotta mainstream him. You gotta tone him down, and you gotta make him, less college radio and more boy band. I guess that's the point I'm getting at.
No, I guess I can see that. When Punk did that, it when he did his whole pipe bomb thing, it really brought a lot of the fans that had left. All of the Attitude Era type fans. They finally looked at this as them turning the corner and bringing more of that edginess back. And I think that's what has a lot of people disappointed is that they didn't continue it. They aren't pushing him towards just one demographic. Instead, now they're trying to push him towards everyone and get him liked by everyone, and he can't do that by having him going after John Laurinaitis or Triple H or the establishment every week, just because there isn't that strong establishment character right now. That's ever engulfing, like what Vince McMahon was at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other point is you can look at it from another industry. You can look at Eddie Murphy's career. I mean, when Eddie Murphy did Raw, he was, the creme de la creme of the edgy, comedian pushing the industry forward and everything. And then now you look at him now, and he's doing movies with kids that poop on walls and where he can't say so many words, and they're all crap, or he's dressing up in like a silly outfit and playing a fat ant or something. I mean, yeah, it's terrible, but they also make, I can probably guarantee you that Eddie Murphy made more money with Nutty Professor than I think he ever did with those Raw DVDs. So there is that. I mean, yeah, edgy pushes the boundaries. It makes fans like us go crazy, but we keep forgetting that Bischoff's right when he says 10%. I think he's being generous.
Yeah. Rob, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I'm basically right with Harrison on this. I mean, once you decide to start marketing people, you've got to make them more mainstream, and it sucks.
Yeah, it totally does. You got to make them appeal to the broadest audience, and that's the case. I mean, besides Eddie Murphy, look at the Rolling Stones or Pearl Jam. Look what they turned into.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Pearl Jam when they were cool.
Yeah, and along the same lines, I mean, like, if we want to talk about comedians, even look at Chris Rock. I mean, he was really edgy, and then now you barely ever hear anything about him because he never left that. He's tried to stay in that niche.
Yeah, and, that's not going to last you for very much longer. And at a certain point, parents want to share this with their kids. And like I said, not many parents are going to buy CM Punk T-shirts for their 8-year-olds. They want to buy the, Never Give Up Cena C Nation shirts because of what it stands for, and which is fine. They're wrestling fans just like we are, but that's why it's happening.
Cool. Thanks, JD, for that statement. Okay. Going back to Peckerdecker on YouTube, like I said before,
I love that user.
Like I said before, he sent in a few questions. We're going to use them here.
Sure.
I think they're both related. So you guys listen to them and tell me if they're basically the same question. Question number 1: Isn't it disgraceful having TNA's boss's son, Garrett Bischoff?
Is it disgraceful having Garrett Bischoff on when I think I remember this one when there's so much better talent out there?
Yeah, and the same thing with bringing Hogan's daughter to give her more TV time when there are other people who have worked there longer who have made a name for themselves that aren't getting the same TV time. Question number 2.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
Sure.
His second question: If an outsider like The Rock or Lesnar headlines a pay-per-view and gets more fans and viewers than the regular WWE roster, doesn't that show how weak the WWE roster wrestlers are?
Well, the second one we touched on last week, where we talked about the idea of possibly a Rock Lesnar main event for WrestleMania and how pissed off the rest of the roster would be because these guys, I think Rob brought it up saying that these guys weren't touring 52 weeks a year. They're going to show up like ringers at the end and then they're going to get all the glory. I don't think it really shows. Okay, for the second question, I don't think it shows a lack of depth for the WWE roster. I just think it shows how limited that even though the WWE goes on with those stupid "Did you know" graphics and showing how many more Facebook friends they have and Twitter followers and all that shit, that they're still a niche industry. Yeah, and that guys who headline G.I. Joe and UFC fights are going to bring in not just, and it's not even pay-per-view buys, like you can't really measure that or how much money. It's the perception. Like Lesnar gets headlines outside the wrestling industry, so does The Rock. So when those guys show up, it gets WWE out there in places that they normally aren't. So then it kind of captures the public eye.
Sure, but his premise is basically that WWE's roster is weak, therefore they have to bring in guys like Brock and The Rock. At the same time, he's criticizing TNA for almost doing the same thing, pushing other people that are kind of controversial and have the names of Bischoff and Hogan over their current roster. Is it possible that TNA thinks that their roster is too weak to carry themselves and they have to bring names like that out?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think TNA is doing the same. I mean, you could say the same thing. We probably would have had, if this podcast existed 15 years ago, we would have the same conversation when Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon were on camera. I mean, we could look at it and say the exact same thing. I mean, this is an identical situation. And when Shane McMahon first came out, I remember wrestling blogs were just starting. I remember Mike from PW Tours that we had on, him and I were huge in wrestling at the time. I remember reading on a few of these blogs and the forums and everything, that fans were kind of pissed that this guy, Shane McMahon, the boss's son, comes on TV, he's obnoxious, he's rich, he's annoying, and all that stuff. But, he won the crowd over. I think the thing with Garrett Bischoff and Hogan, you gotta give him time. I mean, I know Garrett's been out there for 4 months? I don't know. I think he just needs his moment.
Yeah, he definitely has not stepped up to win the crowd over like Shane McMahon has. Rob, your thoughts on these two topics?
I don't think the WWE roster is weak necessarily. I just don't think they're being used correctly. I think WWE is making a lot of questionable decisions about them, and that on how to use their roster talent, and that's what's holding them back. As for TNA, Garrett Bischoff I don't have a problem with because I don't see any signs of special treatment. Garrett Bischoff seems to be working. He seems to be improving. He seems to be working from the bottom up.
Yeah, that's another really good point, Rob. Yeah. No. Face it, Garvin. I mean, the guy basically into it. He's the boss. I mean, he's one of the boss's sons. He could have been spoon-fed a lot. You can argue that Shane McMahon did when he first came out in the Attitude Era. He was spoon-fed a lot of stuff right off the bat. And, yeah, he stepped up. But like Rob's saying, Rob's got a really good point. Garrett Bischoff, say what you will about him. The guy's going out there and he's wrestling matches.
Yeah, he's definitely not being spoon-fed as...
I mean, he
like
went out
David
there...
Flair was, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, David Flair. That's a really good point.
They're not handing him a title, but they are putting him in high-profile situations. You know, he was in that big storyline with Hogan and Bischoff. And at the same time, now he's in the ring with Devon. So you have, you know,
but he's earned his way there.
Has he?
But yeah, let's take a look at the Lethal Lockdown match, the big storyline with Bischoff and Hogan. He went out there first. He went out there and got the living shit beat out of him for half an hour.
Good point.
I mean...
Yeah, Rob, I mean, you brought up a really good point there. I think the thing is I think you can't take an absolutist position with Garrett Bischoff because he has been here for 4 months. I really got to say, you got to give him just a little bit more time, see what happens, because he is bootstrapping himself. You can't say that his name isn't doing anything for him because, face it, I mean, that name means stuff in pro wrestling. And the fact that he was in that high-profile storyline, I mean, that's just easy writing because he's Bischoff's son. I mean, how could you not use that? So... yeah, but at the same time, he's not David Flair. Like you said with Garvin, he is not David Flair.
Yeah, I agree that he needs more time, but he definitely is getting more opportunities than he probably should. He probably should be working the lower card, not in the TV title race. That's all I'm saying.
The TV title, he's had one TV title match, which was broken up and went to a no contest because of interference by Robbie E and Robbie T. Outside of that, he has been pretty much low, maybe a couple of mid-card bouts. I don't have a problem with how TNA is using him, and I agree with Harrison. I think we need a little bit more time to see whether or not Garrett Bischoff is worth the roster spot. But like I said, right now I have no problem with him in TNA.
Yeah, and let me backtrack that statement. You know, I guess looking at the TV title division with everyone else that's in there, okay, maybe that is a good spot for him because they are using the TV championship to develop new stars and to give people opportunities. So, okay, I guess I'm not totally against it, but still, I would like to see Rob Terry, you know, get a shot over Garrett Bischoff or.
Yeah, but the thing you got to remember is it's confirmation bias. I mean, the Garrett Bischoff name means something. I mean, the Bischoff name means something. So regardless of what situation it's put in, you're going to notice it more. So you're probably going to think he's getting more handed to him.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's basically it. We're about to move on to Slammiversary. How much longer we got you for, Harrison?
Maybe a few more minutes. It's, what, the fourth inning? Yeah, at the top of the fourth. They're on the field.
How many innings do the softball go?
This one? 8, I think? I don't know. They have 33 minutes left. Usually they go to the time. And it's weird because you got one ball and one strike when you get up to the plate, like, automatically. There's a lot of really weird rules in softball. There's a second home plate.
Qua?
There's like a second home plate away from the other home plate, and then when you run, it's a forced out if you pass a line. I don't know. I guess it's to keep you from. Well, I guess it's to keep people from charging home plate and knocking the catcher out, which is fair because my wife played catcher a few times. And
it sounds like we're getting into like Blurns ball.
It really does. Basketball.
We received an email from Tony right before we get into our full Slammiversary conversation. This Sunday is Slammiversary, and yet I only know of 2 matches. Is TNA even trying? The WWE at least had Cena Rock for a year, Punk vs. Jericho feuding for a couple months, and Triple H vs. Taker. Who is to blame for their lack of promotion?
Well,
hold on. I just wanted to clarify because we received this email this afternoon. So as soon as we got it, I took a look at the upcoming card, and there were actually 4 matches booked.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But I don't remember them booking 2 of them. So I kind of understand where he's coming from.
Well, this kind of harkens back to what we were talking about a few weeks ago, where we were discussing. Fan wrote in a really good point saying about if TNA even cares about pay-per-view buys, and I mean, I'm just gonna repeat what I said then. I really think pay-per-view buys don't factor that much into TNA. They probably don't make a lot of money from them. They're not touring, so it's in the same stadium. So regardless if they do in the a regular showing or a pay-per-view, it's not like I don't even think they charge for tickets, do they? That's like rolled into the Universal Studios price.
I think so. I think if you buy a ticket to Universal Studios, you manage to get you can watch a TNA taping, and I would imagine then that TNA gets a percentage of ticket prices.
Okay,
yeah,
so
and that also includes the pay-per-views that are held there.
Yeah, so you got to think to TNA, what's the upshot?
Yeah, and like it's being discussed in the live chat, Ali from Wrestling News Source, he's saying that there have been reports saying that TNA is focusing more on TV shows rather than pay-per-views. You can kind of say the same thing about WWE. They really haven't been doing the greatest promotion for their pay-per-views. A lot of the matches that you see at the pay-per-view, you see before and after, on free TV.
Yeah, I mean, look at the CM Punk Daniel Bryan match 2 weeks ago. I mean, that was basically, hey, congratulations, you paid $50 to get this early.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe WWE and TNA, if you want to read the tea leaves, maybe WWE and TNA are looking at it going, maybe the pay-per-view buy, like as a traditional staple of monthly viewing, is going away. Maybe instead of every month we get a pay-per-view now instead maybe it's going to be once a quarter. Maybe for WWE, they'll just kind of pull back, instead of, they do 12 now, they did 13 last year. They'll do 12, maybe they'll do 10 this year, maybe next year they'll do 10. Maybe TNA's thinking, they're probably, I don't want to say they're expensive, but maybe they're just not worth it. Maybe what you get on ratings makes more than what you get on pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, and if you look at WWE, I mean, like specifically what they were planning on doing was moving most of their pay-per-views onto the WWE network, which is basically free TV if you buy that package, So, I wouldn't say they're going to scale back. I think you still need that kind of special event, that special super card, but I definitely think they need to, if they're going to keep the same type of format, the same pay-per-view level with, $50 a pay-per-view, they need to change how they're doing it and going back to the old way of promoting pay-per-views. Otherwise, they need to change the format altogether and go with a cheaper show, or I don't know. I don't know how you would do it.
I don't know. I really think if you want to see between WWE and TNA, if you want to see where the future of pay-per-views are going to go, as far as the industry as a whole, you're probably going to have to look at TNA because they're in the unique position of having national exposure and no money. Whereas WWE pulls in a 3 rating every week. So they get tons of advertising money to supplement any kind of lax pay-per-view buys. So TNA is going to have to be aggressive with that side of it. So if you want to see where the wrestling industry is going to be in about 5 to 10 years, as far as pay-per-view buys, oh, that's crap. My wife just got out at first. Sorry. Where was I? Oh, yeah, I say you probably got to watch TNA just because they're going to be the ones that are going to be hungrier to make that work or figure out that it won't work. Because they need to.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, Harrison, their survival directly depends on what they can
do. Yeah. The WWE can probably coast for a year just because they got all those DVD releases, and I know we're all looking forward to Triple H's next movie where he's once again a reformed convict. I'm sure that'll coast him for a little bit. I don't think TNA has the same luxury. I'm not looking forward to reviewing another one of those movies.
All right. Well, besides the 4 matches that were booked, there was also a 5th one that was announced on Impact, and that was Samoa Joe versus Austin Aries. Since Impact, though, it's been removed from the Slammiversary official website.
That's not surprising.
Samoa Joe was removed from the arena, according to a tweet that he posted. He said, currently being escorted from the premises to avoid an incident on the company's big night.
Hey, is Lee in the live chat? Has he found out anything else about that? Because I tried finding out what happened, and other than the tweet and fan reaction, I haven't found anything else about it, which really worries me.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, if TNA put that title lid on this, something bad happened, and we may never see Samoa Joe again. And it won't be like Samoa Joe got kidnapped. It'll be like you'll never see him again.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way.
Yeah,
I
Taz won't be bringing Samoa Joe back anytime soon.
Yeah, I have not read any further developments. I just know that, if you read Samoa Joe's Twitter feed since then, it's all been mostly about video games and whatnot. So it's almost as if he's ignoring the topic.
Yeah, once again, not a good.
Yeah, it's either, they're avoiding it altogether, they're trying to resolve it, or he is cleaned, his locker out, as you would say. Lee just posted in the live chat. He said, WrestlingNewsSource.com knows nothing. Nothing's been said about it. There's been an increase of tweets between Samoa Joe and CM Punk, but you never know what that actually means.
Well, I think it's clear. I think Samoa Joe's going to be making an appearance at Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Well, it's never too early to speculate Samoa Joe jumping ship. Hey, does anybody have Samoa Joe in the draft? Because if he jumps ship to WWE, I got to drop Orton.
Joe already has Samoa Joe.
Ah, Joe, you Detroit asshole. All right.
Joe picked him up when he was still tag team champion. So
lamers.
Let's go over the card. The first match that was booked officially outside of the title matches was Bully Ray versus Joseph Park. We're finally going to see Joseph Park in a match. Maybe they might bring back Abyss. Who knows what they're doing? Rob, what do you think that they're going to do with this?
I don't know. I mean, right now, I think Joseph Park. One of the things that I like about this storyline is not only are they advancing it, but Abyss has this cool Superman gimmick. I mean, he's got the Clark Kent personality, and then he's got Abyss, who is slightly different than Superman, admittedly, but.
Holy shit, that's the best comparison I've ever heard of that.
Thank you.
Everyone keeps saying Jekyll and Hyde, Jekyll and Hyde. You're like, Superman. Yeah, there you go. Glasses and everything. You know what would be wild? If we find out at Slammiversary that Joseph Park and Abyss actually are two different people. And tell me that would not blow your goddamn mind.
That would blow.
And I don't mean Diesel and Diesel kind of thing. I mean, legitimately, Abyss comes out and he's like, yeah, this is my actual brother, Joseph Park. And it's just and everybody who works in Joseph Park's law firm is like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And I don't, that would, I mean, that would be one of those things where I would just be staring at the TV, speechless for about 5 minutes, how the hell?
Yeah, you just got to stand up and clap at that point. It's good on TNA. Good on them.
So, any chance that Abyss gets involved, not necessarily in this match, but in some kind of fashion so that this match actually doesn't happen?
No. I think what's going to happen is this match is going to happen. It's going to be, kind of like a continuation of what they had at Impact, where Bully Ray, it's more of a segment really than a match. It ends however it ends, and then later on, backstage, we're going to see Abyss hit Bully Ray and attack him. I think that's how they're going to play it. I think we're going to see, and that's going to be the continuation of seeing Bully Ray kind of bringing Abyss out of Joseph Park. And I got to say, it is pro wrestling, but it is kind of a compelling storyline. I mean, it's kind of interesting to watch. I mean, good on Abyss to be able to play two characters like this, but
it was very slow to begin with, but it has progressed very well.
Like Rob said, TNA has done a really good job moving this along lately. Like you were saying, Garvin, it has been a slow burn, but I'd say over the past month, yeah.
And Abyss has been operating under the assumption that Joseph Park.
Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta bounce.
Okay.
Right.
Have a good night. Thanks for joining.
Talk to you later. All right, bye.
Operating under the assumption that Joseph Park and Abyss are the same person, it's a great acting job by Abyss, like Harrison said, to play two different people, especially when one of those characters is somebody who is not a pro wrestler, who knows nothing about pro wrestling. I mean, you have to completely change everything from how you get into the ring to how you act and everything. So it's been a good compelling storyline all the way around. Now that it's actually advancing.
All right, so who wins? Bully Ray or Joseph Park?
I'm going to go with Harrison. I think Bully Ray wins, and then we'll see Abyss jump Bully Ray backstage later on or something.
Okay, so you got... I'm sorry, you said Bully Ray?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go with Joseph Park. And I think there'll be shenanigans, but I think it'll be Joseph Park winning.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, let me jump right into the live chat. Something just popped up. Wrestling News Source. Just on Samoa Joe topic, Lagana, who is their head writer, just tweeted Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle before the bell at Slammiversary, which suggests he will be there, so it could have been an Angle after all.
Interesting.
It is interesting in that, that's what happened there is kind of an extension of the storyline they were playing up months before, like even before like the tag team tournament. They were trying to make Samoa Joe like this destructive force that was just destroying everyone in the back. Why they never progressed that, I have no idea, because that was badass.
Yeah. I mean, and that was one of the things that finally got the crowd starting to chant, Joe's going to kill you again.
Yeah, so now that he's done with the tag teams, it seems, it doesn't look like they're going to do any type of a rematch with Magnus and Samoa Joe. So because of that, they could be recreating that. Hopefully that's what they're going to do. All right, let's move on to the next match that was booked. I don't remember this one specifically, so this must have been added after Impact aired, and that is Devon and Garrett Bischoff are going to tag team up against Robbie E and Robbie T. It's obvious why they're doing it. Robbie E and Robbie T have interrupted every Devon match that he's had since the last pay-per-view. What I don't get, though, is why Garrett Bischoff is involved, knowing that this week, or this last show, Jeff Hardy was going up for the title. It seems like it would have made more sense to either be Jeff Hardy in this situation or Garrett Bischoff getting a rematch.
They're building from a couple of weeks ago when Garrett Bischoff got the when Garrett Bischoff got the shot and Robbie E and Robbie T interrupted. Garrett Bischoff and Devon teamed up. They teamed up and fought off Robbie E and Robbie T. Right. So they're probably building on that and just ignoring Devon's TV title match from this past week.
Yeah, it just seems like there was a break. There should have been a little bit more continuation to really build this up. I'm not disagreeing that it's a good choice for Garrett Bischoff. I just think it was a bad choice to interrupt that feud to put Jeff Hardy into what now appears to be a meaningless match.
Right. I would have had Garrett Bischoff fight like this past week or something for the TV title rather than Jeff Hardy.
All right, thanks to the live chat. Just reminded me that this past week was the fan vote match anyways, so it wouldn't have mattered. Garrett wasn't involved in that, so right, that explains why they would have done that. So, okay, cool. I'll shut up. Devon and Garrett Bischoff versus Robbie E and Robbie T. Who you got, Rob?
I'm gonna go Devon and Garrett Bischoff.
All right, I'm torn. I might change my vote on Thursday when we do the full show on this. I got to go with Robbie E and Robbie T. They haven't done anything worthwhile, it seems, in a long time. I really want to see Robbie T dominate, and I think to accomplish that, they need to win. So I'm going to go with Robbie E, Robbie T. It looks like most of the chat is going to go with Devon and Garrett Bischoff along with you, Rob. So we'll see. All right, next match, World Tag Team Championships. Another match that I don't remember them announcing, but this one I like because it's something that we've talked about for the last, I got to say, 4 or 5 weeks, and that is, well, not that long, maybe 3 weeks. Daniels and Kaz teaming up to take on AJ Styles and Kurt Angle for the Tag Team Champions, or championships are obviously trying to bring another tag team, another solid tag team into that division. Who you
got? I'm going to go AJ Styles and Kurt Angle.
Walk out with the titles?
Yes.
Hmm.
What? You obviously, because you're not Mr. TNA, you obviously don't remember the awesomeness that was AJ Styles and Kurt Angle when they used to be a regular tag team.
I like the tag team. I'm not disagreeing that it would be sweet to see them with the titles. What has me bothered, though, is Daniels and Kaz just got the titles. You don't necessarily want to see a title being hot potatoed around. Especially because we were all really supportive of Samoa Joe and Magnus, and now they've kind of dropped off the map, giving it to Kaz and Daniels. If Daniels and Kaz drop the titles, well, what does that say for the division? Are they just passing the title around from team to team?
I think it could be. I think it can work in this case because with the storyline between AJ Styles, Dixie Carter, Daniels, and Kazarian, it's going to be an ongoing feud. So I think you can have AJ Styles and Kurt Angle win the titles, and have Daniels and Kazarian come back the next Impact and say, well, see, because AJ Styles' relationship with Dixie Carter, this is, he managed to get ahead again. I think there's a lot of room to work within it, and you can even maybe bring Kurt Angle into the storyline. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Having AJ Styles and Kurt Angle win.
Yeah, I think overall there's a good opportunity on both sides. I think this is a win-win match. Regardless of who walks out with the titles, they can continue the storyline well. But I'm gonna pick the opposite of you again and go with Daniels and Kaz. I just can't see them dropping the titles so soon. So, all right, the final match, most likely the main event, World Heavyweight Championship. Bobby Roode defends the title against the Icon Sting. Who you got?
I'm going to pick Sting, and I'm going to pick Sting because I keep saying they're going to give Sting one more title reign before he retires, and I just feel it in my gut that Sting is nearing the end of his career. And as we've said numerous times, Bobby Roode's title reign needs to come to an end. So I think they're gonna give it to Sting because we still don't know what James Storm is gonna do when he's coming back.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also think that they're going to give it to Sting, but what has me bothered by that is Sting is 53 years old. He should not be shouldering the load of your company. And, you brought up the idea of James Storm coming back. James Storm versus Bobby Roode for the title is much more compelling than it not being for the title. Because, that's where they're going to go towards. They're going to have them two face off. I'd rather it be Roode versus Storm for the title than them fighting off in a number one contender match to decide who's going to face Sting. So, but yes, the whole idea where Sting took time off to prepare to be, to come back full time. That's how it's been reported. I think he did very well, but I don't know. I think it's a bad decision, but I think that's the direction they're going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to see James Storm versus Roode for the title, but as I said, we don't know when exactly James Storm is going to come back. It looks like he is going to be coming back, given his last segment. It's just a question of when exactly he makes his return. As far as Sting and his age, I don't have a problem with it. I think he's going to be a transitionary champion. He'll take the title and he'll pass it on to somebody else. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Roode gets his hand on the title again, either by beating Sting or by beating whoever gets the belt after Sting. And
Right.
that could set the stage for Rude versus Storm for the title.
Okay. And this is being talked about in the live chat. It's something that I've read online as well, and that is the idea that maybe somehow Rude gets out of his match against Sting. Maybe that's interesting. So like to the point where he's not medically cleared to fight, and then James Storm comes in, and it's Storm versus Rude at Slammiversary. Do you think at all that that's a possibility?
Yeah, I could see that doing. Like, I could see that happening. Like, maybe Sting or Rude takes Sting out somehow this Thursday on Impact, and as a result, James Storm comes back and says, okay. And as a result, Hogan says, all right, you know what? Well, I've been talking to James Storm, and you're going to face him at Slammiversary instead.
Okay. Well, that's the Slammiversary card as it's booked right now. Again, we're going to do another live show like we always do. It's going to be our TNA Slammiversary pay-per-view special live at 10 o'clock on Thursday. That's directly after Impact goes off the air. Rob, myself, Harrison, Lee from Wrestling News Source, we're going to preview and predict Slammiversary. And also react to the live Impact that we're going to see that night. So should be really cool. Okay, we had a few more things on the news, but I think we're going to leave that off this show. So instead, let's go ahead and go right into Win Fail.
Women wrestlers aren't getting paid? Why do you do a job?
Here is your win
You do any job,
and fail
is to fucking get paid!
of the week.
Rob, what were your wins of the week?
My win was Taz telling Joey Ryan to shut the fuck up and get the hell out of TNA. I just thought that was awesome the way, Taz just said, hey, you know what, I'm not going to take shit from you.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I want to say that, my win of the week specifically is TNA in general. They are definitely pushing forward, and they're doing it consistently. Their show, sure, it had some ups and downs, but it was a solid show, and that isn't something necessarily that you can say about SmackDown or Raw. Raw and SmackDown felt like they were still missing something, and I walked away disappointed. Sure, there was some things I liked, but overall I felt disappointed. While Impact, I'm not disappointed. I think they're doing a great job. From the live chat, Ryback invades Raw. I guess there is one person that's happy that Ryback is getting wins on both shows. Diva Jill. And also another win was Punk, Bryan, Kane, AJ. That whole storyline.
And that's not influenced by the fact that she has him on her draft team and he's making points for her.
No. I totally agree with the win of Punk, Bryan, Kane, AJ. That whole storyline is fantastic. Definitely the highlight of Raw and SmackDown. I hope they continue to push that. All right, Rob, your fail of the week.
My fail of the week is going to be from the same segment, but directed on Joey Ryan. I think for getting the opportunity you have, assuming it's not a work and everything we saw there was real, then Joey Ryan, you are the idiot of the millennium for pissing away a shot that you had just so that you could one-up Taz. I hope trying and failing to one-up Taz was worth losing your job over, because that's basically what happened. And I hope one-upping Austin Aries for a couple of seconds was worth losing your job for last week, because when you break it down, if it's real and Joey Ryan doesn't get a job now with TNA, that's why.
Yeah, again, I still feel really confused with what they were doing with that. And if he did not understand the segment like we don't understand the segment, fully, that was a huge, huge mistake. But then again, maybe he realized, hey, I don't really want to be in TNA, so I'm just going to shoot on everyone. That's also a possibility.
That's true too. Maybe he decided that with the shoot he could get a better job in a better independent fed, or maybe get a shot at moving to one of the WWE developmental feds or something by doing the shoot and trying to embarrass TNA. Who knows?
Right. My fail of the week, I actually have two. One is the idea, and this was posted on a Bleacher Report article by Giulio Romano. He wrote about the idea that the Divas division is basically dead. It is in danger of being completely removed from WWE, and he specifically points out that Layla, the champion, hasn't been on TV since
for
the
like
pay-per-view.
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, they're not pushing any type of storyline to push that build up. It can be assumed that they're going to give the match to Beth Phoenix, but she really hasn't done a whole lot to deserve another match against Layla. So yeah, I'm completely I'm completely with him. We're gonna post that article on our website and on our Facebook page, just so you guys can read it, see what your feedback is, and maybe we'll bring that more in depth next week. The other fail I had, I can't remember. So let's go to the live chat. Their fail of the week was Raw's awful main event. Obviously, people are still upset about Cole and Cena being in that main event spot. Completely agree. Another fail is WWE in general. So the live chat is kind of feeling the same way I am about WWE. They're leaving me disappointed. They're giving me some shots of some sparks of good, but overall they're failing hard. And that's the show. As you can tell, we are just a group of friends that do this in our spare time. We don't charge for this like some podcasts do, but we do work extremely hard at making sure we put on some quality entertainment that sounds professional. So we're not asking you to send us money, but if you wanted to, we have merchandise. We have T-shirts available at ftwpodcast.com/merch. Otherwise, if you can't dedicate some cash, still show your support. You can rate us in iTunes, get us higher in their list. Stitcher just released a top trending list for their podcast. The higher up that we can get, the more potential listeners, and the more opportunities that maybe someone who does have cash to spare can send it our way. So, and you guys can support us just by doing what you're doing now, sending us questions via questions at FTW Podcast. You can also continue these conversations on Facebook.com/FTW Podcast, Twitter.com/FTW Podcast, and we put all of these episodes on YouTube.com/The FTW Podcast. To everyone in the live chat, once again, thank you for listening and for chiming in on all of these conversations. Our next show is this Thursday, once again, our TNA Slammiversary pay-per-view special, which comes directly after Impact goes off the air. 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 a.m. if you're in the UK like Lee. So, and that's it. That's all I got. Rob?
That's all I've got.
Okay. Once again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.
Later, guys.